You say you're fine, but I can see right through. You're holding your secrets for way too long. This can't keep going on. With every lie, they keep on hurting you, getting away with everything they do. This can't keep going on. No, we're gonna find them, and I'm gonna fight for you. They better start hiding. We'll be running with the lions, lions. We'll be running with the lions, lions. They can't run, they can't hide. We won't stop until they're down. We'll be running with the lions, lions.
Hello, everyone, and happy Sunday. Cannot believe it is the last Sunday in August. I'm your host of Gloves Off, Dr. Kalpana Sundar, and every week I host this show. So for those of you who are new, this show is really about people who show up authentically and do something courageous and amazing in the world. So every week I have a special guest. And this week I have a very special guest. I was supposed to have somebody on today. It was Lem, who is for Computers to Kids, but he had a little bit of an emergency, so had to reschedule. So I was able to get Dr. Loren on today, which I'm so excited because he has such an interesting story. He has been in the foster system, but yet he wound up taking that experience and turning his whole life into something that's so beautiful. We're going to be talking about that, but not only that, he is the network president of Trajectory TV, which this show is hosted on. He is the person that got me involved in doing Gloves Off, so I'm very, very grateful to him. But before we get into his story, I would like to thank my sponsor, Elevated CPA, for sponsoring us every week and sponsoring Gloves Off. All right. Well, I have to tell you guys, I have a funny story to share with you. Literally about 3 minutes before we were about to go live, I always have a bottle of water right next to me, you know, one of those containers, and it's a steel container. And I have to tell you, one of the problems that I have in my life is putting on lids to things. So needless to say, I have this cup next to me and I don't put the lid on correctly, which is something I do very frequently. Next thing you know, it drops and I've literally got water all over the place. So I managed to clean it up before we went live. So I was like, thank goodness. But it was just a funny story because anybody who knows me well knows that I have a real problem with spilling water everywhere. But anyway, today I'm so excited to interview Dr. Loren Michaels-Harris. He is probably one of my favorite people in the world. Every time I talk to him, I feel like I just got a bright light shine down on me, you know, and he is just an inspiration. He's always really helping people be the best version of themselves. I guess that's the best way that I could explain it. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Loren. Hello, Dr. Loren. Welcome to Gloves Off.
That phone. I'm good. How are you?
Good. So glad to have you on.
Glad to be here. You know, and you're on the West Coast, so it's still, you guys still have daylight?
Yes, yes, very
Oh,
little. It'll
see,
get dark in about 2 hours.
well, it's pitch dark here. It's after 8 p.m. And Dr.
Yes.
Loren, he's usually going to bed now. So if anything should just come out of my mouth that makes totally no sense, it's because I'm sleep talking.
Well, that makes for a way more exciting episode. So
Yeah, I do say that now.
that's why we played it like this. Like, who knows what he's gonna say?
Uh, I can hold it together. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I've been looking forward to this. We were going to do this, in a couple of weeks, but we got to do it a little early.
Okay.
And I am just so excited to hear more about your story because although you and I chat a lot, one of the things that I love about doing the show is really deep diving into each person's story and hearing how it influenced the later parts of their lives. So
Mm.
I want to actually start with your time in the foster care system. You had 22 mothers, which is really about what almost four mothers per year. So four different households every single year. And what year did you start this?
I started in 1976.
Wow. And how old
1970.
were you? You were
I was 10, turning 11.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That must have been so tough. I mean, I think being a child is tough anyway for many, many reasons. So I can't imagine what it was like going from home to home to home, getting used to a different family. So can you describe a little bit of what that was like for you?
Hmm. That's interesting. I don't think I've been asked to think about that before, what that
Hmm.
was like. Really? Seriously. Um, just the moving from, well, I'll say this. At one time, I do remember that I did have three homes in 1 week.
Oh
And
God.
and that stood out. The others all seem like a blur because you're here so many weeks or months at this one. I think the longest I was at one would have been the Walkers. They were like, that was a good one. I love the school. I love the siblings and remained friends with them well into my 30s. Um,
That's nice.
till the parents both passed away and then the kids just went, you know how that goes. But I
Hmm.
would say a year was the longest I ever spent in one spot. And then 3 moves in 1 week would have been the most. So, and then every variation in between. But, after a few, you kind of become numb to it.
I was thinking that. I mean, I
Mhm.
think that when we undergo some sort of traumatic events in our lifetime, especially early on, a lot of people will say they don't remember much of their childhood because of that.
Well, it's a combination, to be honest with you, because after years of therapy in my adult life, like even post military, which was in my mid 20s when I separated from the military, um,
Mhm.
there are things that come out later in life that you don't remember until later in life.
Mhm.
So and I still think there are things, and I'm beginning to believe even more that are there before I ever entered foster care. That just is where I always assumed it all began. But I'm really beginning to believe as I get older and more comes to the surface that you know the story really did begin when in the beginning, once upon a time. Not just, the two women who were deciding what was going to happen to me while I was still in the womb, but I just believe too that, before I entered the system, those years that I had with mother number two, I just have a feeling somewhere in there are things that I just haven't really understood yet. So it's a work in progress as
Yeah.
everybody else's journey is. So, you know.
It's very interesting how our minds work and how we repress memories, how we sometimes, so many years later, process these memories to understand how they affected us. So, did you go right from the foster care system to the military?
No, no, I didn't. I actually left foster care at 16. You're supposed to age out at 18, but I was one of the first kids. I was testing. I guess you could call me a beta tester.
Okay.
It was a trial basis, a thing. It was brand new back then called independent living. So that's how I got out early, but still was under the care of the system, the state of Michigan, but I was on independent living, which means my second semester of my junior year in high school, I lived in my own apartment, which was the basement in the house that I grew up in because my sister inherited it. There was no will or anything. I was the only kid living at home when our mom died. But I went in the system and they moved in. But when it came out, I was able to use that address because the basement had its own bathroom, its own entrance, it had a kitchen. And so I actually paid her to live in our family home. I did. I
Wow.
know a lot of people are like, what? But that was how actually my foster family number 22 that my presidential lifetime achievement award hangs in their house. I didn't even unwrap it. I unwrapped it, the paper, but I didn't take it out of the plastic. I took it straight to their house because they were the ones who told me. They found out I was living in that basement. I ran into the foster mom, Pat
Mhm.
McGowan, who is now in heaven. But Pops, my foster dad, is still in Niles, Michigan, and we're still a family. And I'll never forget. She ran into me and she goes, "I heard you were back. Where are you living?" Da 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 da. And I said, "Well, I'm renting the basement." And she goes, "The basement at your?" She goes, "Your mom, Ada." She goes, "She wouldn't have wanted that." She goes, "Is that your bike?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Put it in the trunk." And we put it in her trunk. And my mom used to clean their house. So I grew up with my two foster brothers because I would go with my mom in the summer and on vacations and stuff when she had their house to clean. And so Jeff and Brett, my brothers, were friends, of my mom's employer back then. And
Mhm.
then that day, like I said, she ran into me and it wasn't the house that I remember my mom cleaning last when I went in the system. They had done well since then. And they had this big, beautiful chateau like Tudor home,
Oh,
three
nice.
stories and a big pool and just all this lawn and beautiful cars. And she goes and she pulls behind it and she says, "Get out." And we looked down and my foster brother Jeff was riding the mower and doing the lawn. And she goes, "Do you like that house?" I was like, "Yeah." Geez, who lives there? They must be rich. And she goes, "Well, if you want, starting today, you can live there." She goes, "There's enough time when you die to live underground, and that's what basements are. They're underground." She goes, "If you want, we can go get your shit." That's exactly how she said it. "And you can live here now." And I did. And that wasn't the thing. But the main thing was they told me I got an opportunity. I tried out for Up With People and I got in. And when I came back from Up With People, that's when I ran into them again.
Mm.
And they said to me again, you know, if you ever go somewhere and because I told them about my military dream, and they said, well, if you go and you don't find your dream wherever it is you're looking, you can always come back here and call it home while you contemplate what is next. So if
So
you need
what
that,
what was your military dream?
my military dream was just to be able to not feel like I was sleeping on somebody's couch.
Mm.
Because even when I got out early and I was renting the basement of the house we grew up in, somebody else lived upstairs in what was my bedroom. It was somebody else's food in the refrigerator. They were already a family. My sister was
Mm.
married. She had two kids and another one was on the way. And it wasn't the same. It wasn't my house anymore. Um, my mom wasn't there. It just wasn't the same,
Yeah.
but so, yeah, but it was all meant to be. It was all meant to be. And a lot of my friends, it was very challenging when you come back to go, "Where'd you go? What happened to you? You just disappeared. You were in school one day and then you weren't here anymore." Um, and so, those kinds of things. But too, also, it was like when I got out of the system, I thought it's almost like if you break up with somebody, not always are they going to break up with you, you know? And so, and what I mean by that is I left the system, but a lot of the system didn't leave me.
Mm.
There was survivor's guilt
Mhm.
because I went looking for a lot of the friends that I had when I was, especially in the first home or two,
Right.
because they kind of indoctrinated me. We became like blood brothers. My roommates in those, especially the first house, because that's where all of the first abuse began for me. The very first night was the first sexual abuse, and I didn't even know 24 hours prior that what this thing was. I had never heard of it. No one had warned me of it. I was in a Seventh Day Adventist home, going to parochial school the week before, and even like I said, the night before, because no one told me that I was leaving that family until the woman showed up to get me. The
Mm.
doorbell rang and everyone stopped talking and looked at me. I'll never forget it. And I was like, what? And they just looked away, lowered their heads, this kind of thing. And she was a woman who went to our church who was a social worker, and my mom had told her the secret. And so she felt duty bound to report it to the courts. And so as soon as my mom, she reported it as soon as she died, and they just let it go until that week later after she was buried. And that next day, they come walking right in. And so
Wow.
I went from being Larry Dixon. That's who I was. All my life, I had been that kid. And they walked in and said, "You're not Larry Dixon. That isn't your real name. Your name is Loren Harris. You were never legally adopted." And I'm like, duh, who said anything about that? Because I looked like these people. I really
Right.
believed I had been born there.
Wow.
And no one could look at me. And they just said, "No, you're Loren Harris, and get your things. Put
How
what you
old were
can in
you
this
at this point?
10."
10. Okay. Okay. God,
So
that's got to be so shocking just to have that happen.
oh, it's beyond shocking. Shocking doesn't do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I don't even
You
know what a
know,
word is for that.
when
I
they
mean,
tell you you have like 20 minutes to pack what you can in a trash bag, and you have a desk full of things at school, you have a dog in the backyard, you have a 10 speed you got for Christmas, you have Cub Scouts, you have a best friend named Scott, and that's just off the top of my head. So
mm,
you're looking around the room with all the stuff you've always been familiar with, and they're
hmm
telling you you're not Larry, you're Lauren. Get what you can. And I remember it was so funny because I was, well, take one of everything. I kept at, that's when it began. I started saying, what would mom say? What would my mom want me to do?
hmm
And so I was reaching for one of everything. I'll never forget. I went for my favorite pair of Fruit of the Loom, tidy whities. And I heard her, because they were all broken in, is how I refer to it. And I heard her say, "Not those. What if you're in an accident? You don't want to be caught in those." And I literally put them back and got a good pair, like my church underwear, or my special occasion underwear, you know. And it was just, I'll never forget that. What was so rough and so tough about that little span of time, that was really less than a half hour, but it felt like a lifetime, was not knowing what was more important or less important to the next. I kept looking around and, you know, trying to decide, what do I take? What do I take? What will I need? What will I need? But you can't pack for what you need with what you need if you have no idea of where it is you're going.
Absolutely not. Oh my
So
goodness.
that
And
was
you're
one of the
10 years
roughest moments.
and you're 10 years old.
Yeah.
You're not even comprehending what's happening. All of a sudden you
No.
have a different name
Yeah.
and it's just ugh, I can't even
Yeah.
imagine such a thing.
Yeah. Well, that
So
was the
then-
poison. That was the poison, or so it seemed. But
Mhm.
it's okay, because for everyone who's ever dealt with any kind of trauma, that is the good news. That no matter, I believe this today, I believe, especially with children, when trauma comes swooping into your young, innocent life, don't fret. It feels like hell. It feels like shit at the time. But literally now I know, all these years later, decades later, that that was the exact moment that I feel my life was marked for greatness. And so I share that with people, especially kids. That was the
Mhm.
moment you were literally marked for greatness. So celebrate it. I love trauma today. I love it because it sharpens you in a way that nothing can. Other than that, it just does. And if you are attempting to write your legacy in a manner that it will be legible for the world to read clearly, every syllable for thousands of years, you have to write it with the sharpest of pencils. If you have a
Mm.
blunt, dull pencil, no one will be able to ascertain what you've written. So that sharpness is crucial
The
to the
sharpness
people
comes
looking
from
at
the trauma.
it. It does.
It's so
And what it
true.
takes you through, what it takes you through.
Absolutely. And then the
Yeah.
transformation that comes after that leads you to something, uh, to
Yeah.
the greatness. I
The
mean,
antidote.
exactly.
You can't create an antidote unless you first have the poison. You have
Right.
must have access to the poison, or you have nothing in which to base the antidote on. So
Right.
that's why I say, don't just leave the poison. Bottle it, get it out, bottle it, and turn it into something that can heal
Right.
someone else that was bitter stung by that same viper, that same
100%.
poisonous.
Well, how long did it take you to get to the point of that realization? Because you
50,
were
50.
okay. Okay, I was
It
gonna
took,
say,
it took
certainly didn't come at a young age.
4.5 decades. It literally took about 4.5 decades.
Yeah. It's about
Because
right.
we,
I think for
well,
a lot of us, it's later in life.
well, for me too, seriously, and I know this to be true, and I've spoken on it from many stages. That's why I fight so desperately to get trash bags out of the foster care system all these years later, decades later, and they're still handing kids in the system that are transitioning trash bags. Because what that did was, tell me how you can equate anything about a child to trash and feel
Oh,
good about it. How? How?
right.
You
Oh,
see,
yeah.
right. And so, because for me, in my 20s, by the time I was headed towards 20, I'll never forget. I was at my last foster parents' house. The
Mhm.
the I was talking about, Pat and Jean McGowan. I was at their house when I turned 19. I remember getting up and blasting Steely Dan, "Hey 19" that morning, and I was so happy because I had always thought I'd never live to that age, and then and I reached in that metaphorical um trash bag, figurative trash bag that I still held on to it at 19, thinking, hoping I would pull something of value out of it, and I didn't. And that led to, you know, in my 20s, uh, you know, starting to dabble in drugs and whatnot. By the time I was, I was in People magazine for a company. I started out in Hollywood, California at 26. And by 28, I was completely addicted to cocaine, completely, and headed for a few decades of homelessness and multiple suicide attempts. And because at every decade, I kept thinking, well, what do you have to lose? Just live recklessly. You're not going to live another 5 years anyway. People like you don't. You're not going to live till 30. You're not going to live till 40. And then at 50, I was like, well, shit, maybe I am going to live. So
I gotta start cleaning things up
that's
possibly.
exactly what happened. It suddenly, I felt an innate desire to change the mantra I had been repeating. I had it on loop for decades, and it was, what did I do to deserve this? What did I do to deserve this? What did I do to deserve this? And then suddenly, just like that, someone flipped it from side A to side B. Or was it from side B to the original side A? Because it went from, what did I do to deserve this, to what must I do to preserve this? Because suddenly I felt purpose. I just did. And it began there, and it's still with me today. It's still growing and growing through me, growing with me, being patient with me, today, you know? So,
It's so amazing. I mean, once that sense of purpose fills you, it just takes you to a whole different place in your life. I mean, I've gone through a similar journey, and I would say that my awakening also happened around close to 50, even though my incident happened in my 30s, where I had the thyroid cancer. I almost died and all that stuff. And
mhm,
honestly, till I never thought a thing about it. I just went about my business. And then as it was close to 50 was when I really
mm,
just knew that there was some change, and I was awakening, and something was calling to me, something that was a bigger purpose. And it's amazing how our lives shift once that purpose is found, or even when you're on the quest to the purpose. Sometimes you don't even need to know what it is in that moment. You just need to know that it's there and you want to find it.
yes, yes. And I'm going to tell you something about that 50 line. I call it the demarcation line. Because what happens is, for a lot of people, when you turn 50, it is a realization for many that, oh my goodness, chances are I most likely have more life behind me at this point than I have in front of me. Because not many people, well, my mom was 100, you know. No, that's not the case for most. And
Right.
so, although for me, I am the exception because my goal is to become the black male Betty White. Let's just put that to
I love
it.
it.
It's true. I'm trying to
It's a
be the
good
black
goal.
Betty White. Yes, it sure is. Yes, it is. And so, well, because I feel like I've just awakened. I feel like so why not? Why not get up every day and say that and instead of casting a spell of destruction over
Right.
myself and the work? And that's another thing that happened at 50 for me. I know since that moment of clarity, I have never gotten up and gone to work, no matter what I was doing. I've always gotten up and gone to get to the work. It's time to get
Mhm.
to the work, not to get to work. I need to get to the work because the work is what it was all about, has always been about, and even after I'm gone, will still be about the work. One day when people, I think they think like in a lot of my sizzle reels for my speaking, I'll say to them, we are creating things, we are crafting things, legacy pieces that the world will learn from, grow from, and heal with for thousands of years. We have that
Mhm.
possibility. I know it goes over people's heads in most cases, and they think that's an exaggeration. Oh, isn't that cute? 1,000 years. No, but it really can be. And what I mean is, I don't believe that 1,000 years from now, 2,000 years from now, maybe, but I doubt it, that they will say, oh, here, read Loren Michaels-Harris's book, or here, listen to his album, or here, want to go watch some of his reruns? No, but somebody may talk about, there was once upon a time back when people thought this and there were a group of people. And maybe I was one of that. But the thing about it is, it will be the work. And the work is what a lot of us are doing. And that's what
Right.
I believe. When they talk about it one day, they talk about each of us that contributed to that legacy. I don't
Mhm.
have to have a bust of myself somewhere where the world finds the likeness of me, the body, thousands of years from
Right.
now, but the work, because I believe that wherever I am at that point, whatever I've transitioned into, for the eternity of time, everything that I've done in this journey, when someone is healed or helped through it, some type of firework will go off wherever I'm at, far in the distance, where I'll know it's still working. Look at that.
Absolutely.
It's been
Absolutely.
5,000 of their years and it's still working. See?
Well, one of the things I love is the way you just change one word and it changes the meaning of everything you're saying. And I know I've had multiple conversations with you, and you've done that in our conversations. And it just allows for such a greater perspective. I mean, it changes that drastically. Going to work sounds mundane, sounds meaningless, right? And then going to the work makes it sound much more transformative, much larger and enlightening. So one word, you
And there's
change
a
one
sense of
word and that,
reverence. There's a sense
yes,
of reverence when you speak to the work, because
yes,
you are that is there as a result of a co-creation with something
right.
greater than yourself and the people that are equal to you, that are walking arm in arm, standing shoulder to shoulder with you. That is the power of we, which you can only find when you turn one letter. It takes one letter. Everything is so simplistic in finding your purpose. Seriously, the clues are out there. You don't have to be a staunch Bible Belt Christian, but you can get the clues that are in, say, for instance, two biblical stories. Let's take raising Lazarus from the dead and on the sea all the disciples thought that they were going to capsize, and he said, peace, be still. He said, peace, come in, be still, to the thunder and lightning and all the turbulence. And peace came in, and the chaos went out. That's controlling nature. With three
Mhm.
words, now go over to life and death. Lazarus, get up. You're dead, but get up. Come forth. Now, if you remove Lazarus, which is a proper noun, Lazarus, three syllables, but that's a proper noun, scoot it out of the way. But the action words in both of those miracles were all one syllable words. Peace, be still, come forth.
Wow.
All syllable, just one syllable words. So that's there to show us you don't have to be a Harvard graduate. You don't have to be a linguist. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You just have to be a person who understands their own worth, their own power, their own meaning, their own purpose. Because
And
when you
that
know
is
your
quite
purpose,
the
that's right.
journey, right? That's the
Yes.
journey. And not only that, but to accept our uniqueness and be our true selves. I mean, I really felt all of that started happening for me at 50, and it sounds like around the same time for you as well.
I think
But
it
so
happens that
many
way
of
for a
us,
lot.
we're fighting that, you know, we're stuck. We want to conform into something that society has set out for us, something that makes us feel comfortable, you know, and really, I think it's outside of that comfort zone is where all the great stuff lies.
Well, again, going to work, people can't wait at 50. They're thinking about retiring. I can't wait to stop. I'll be glad when this shit is done. They can't
That's
wait.
right.
See, that's the thing about it. It's not passion based in most cases. And
Mhm.
so I find when it is about the work, I wake up and there's not enough time. I want more and more and more. I'm like, man, I want to do this until the wheels fall off. That's why I say I want to be the black male Betty White. She worked up to the last minute. She
Yeah,
wasn't on
yeah,
People magazine when she passed away. She wasn't on the cover the next week because she died. She already had that cover booked.
that's
That
right.
book cover was already booked. That story and all
Oh,
that stuff was already on there. She just happened to
wow.
die right before it came out, and they ran with it and put in memory
Wow.
and put her birth date. But
Wow.
that interview in there, she gave a month before because she had already made it. And then I look at her. She was 87 years old and had 3 number 1 hit shows on 3 different television networks, all at the same time.
Right.
87 years old.
And that's the thing. We have so many preconceived ideas, you know, that, you know, we work for X amount of years and then we retire. I mean, I thought that I couldn't wait to retire at 50. I was like, I'm going to be done with medicine at 50. And then I don't know what I thought I was going to do, but I thought I was going to sit around and do nothing or travel. And then I realized that I don't want to retire. I want to keep doing things until I drop dead. I've even told my children, guys, I just want you to know one day you're going to see your mom and you're going to be like, wow, mom's awesome. And then the next day she's just going to be dead. And that's how I want it to go. Just
That
quick and
you know, that's
clean.
true. That you know what? I agree. That's how I want it to. I do
Awesome
not want to
and dead.
languish. Right. And I believe I know people in my adoptive family who that happened to. They just lived passionately and died on the toilet, died in their sleep, but they weren't like in hospital beds, nurse,
Yeah.
hitting the button in intensive care and
No.
hospice. They just died peacefully.
Right. That's how I want to go. And I believe that we can, to some extent, co-create what we want on our
I believe
deathbed.
that too. Sure,
I'm
we can.
trying it.
Of
Yeah,
course we can.
I'm trying it. I've already put it out there. That's how it's going to go for
It's
me.
how to go. Now, you know
And
how we know that's possible, right?
how?
Have you never known people who waited for people to get there before
Oh
they
yeah.
transition?
My
You know,
mother did that before she passed. She waited
exactly.
till my brother showed up, and I even told my father. I said, "You know what?" Because things were lingering for some time, and it was hard on the family, of
Yeah.
course. And I said, "She will pass when he shows up," because he lived on the West Coast at the time, so he was making arrangements to come. The minute he came, she passed. Not the minute, but
Mhm.
within that couple of
Yeah.
days.
Yeah. And I had a
And
guest
when
back
everybody was there, it was
when it was
perfect.
complete. That's
It was
right.
complete.
If they say so and so's on the way, hold on a little. Now they do for that. Now listen,
Mhm.
I had a woman on my show who her sister, they were like in their 80s, right? This woman and her sister had passed the year before, and she said, I'll never forget how her sister came out of whatever she was under, like some coma or something, in and out, in and out. It was horrible, painful cancer, da 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 da. And the sister came out and said, "Please, y'all stop praying for me. You're holding me here. Let me go." And when she said that on the show, I was like,
Wow.
"For real?" She said, "For real." And we stopped praying for what we wanted, and we started praying for what was best for her. And they
Yeah.
said within a couple hours, she was gone.
Right. Well, I've seen this during my medical
Mhm.
career.
You
So many
have?
people. Well, so many people will hold on to their family member because of their own needs and not what's best for them. And that was something that I always said, that when the time comes, I'm going to actually pay attention to what that person needs. And I honored that with my mother. I mean, she was struggling and suffering, and I knew it was best for her. I mean, we
Yeah.
miss her dearly, but nobody wanted her to suffer and struggle the way that she
Yeah.
was, and
Yeah.
neither did she. So it was really
Yeah.
the best thing. And it's hard to look at it that way, but if we believe that we are just souls in a human experience, it makes it a lot easier, I think, to deal with. I mean, we still miss the human person, of course, but I know that she's always with me, so it makes it easier to deal with.
Yes. And I have found, since I've buried two mothers, mother number one and mother number two, neither one of them was easier than the next, and they were decades apart. I was 10
Hmm.
on one, and I was 50 on the other. And I'll say this, I know now, grieving and all of that, no matter how long or how far away it was, I don't grieve. I've never grieved the loss as much as I continue grieving the void that they both left in the world. There's just a piece missing.
Hmm.
You know how you wake up and you want to share something. Oh, I'm gonna call, especially at first, and then you
Right.
realize, you know, we lost a friend while we were in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. My husband and
Hmm.
I, Sandy Longcore, and the moment I heard Sandy Longcore passed away this morning, instantly there was a void in this world.
Right.
It wasn't like, oh, Sandy, it was like, this world is never going to be the same again. And
Right.
so, and that's why I'm going to tell you something. It was Sandy Longcore's passing. Seriously. I went and I changed my will. I put something in my will. This is going to shock you. I'm probably going to turn
Mm.
it into a keynote. I'm probably going to turn it into a keynote for
Yeah.
real.
Can't wait to
But I
hear
did.
it. Okay.
Guess what I did? I went and I changed my will and I put a mandate in there that if anyone, you know how at some funerals, or I'm not having a funeral because I'm not getting a casket. No, I'm scared of
Oh,
enclosed spaces.
yeah.
No, no, I don't
Me
want that. That memorial service, though, that memorial service, you know, how people get up and say things about you, and then there's
too.
an obituary. For both of those, there is a codicil in my will. Anyone who stands up and says anything or shares, or
Hmm.
anyone who is in charge of constructing or reading my obituary, in both of those circumstances, you are not allowed to mention anything about Dr. Loren and whatever your memory is that is older than 2 weeks old. I don't want people talking about in 1993. I remember we went to Vegas. No, I want to talk about it was last Thursday, just last Thursday.
I like
Dr.
that.
Loren and I were on a call, and he said to me, and I asked him that sort of thing because every day, now that I've made that a thing, I want
Right.
to make sure I go to sleep every night having something worthy, just in case I don't wake up. Because my oldest brother in my biological family, he passed in his sleep, and he was younger than me when he did.
Right.
You're supposed to live like it's your last. So that's how
Oh,
I
yeah.
do it. I try to put something in place every day that is worthy of someone standing up at my service and saying, just 3 days ago, or however
Yep.
long, but in the
Yep.
last 2 weeks.
Dr. Lauren impacted my life in this way. I like
But
that.
you gotta
I think
remember
it's
too. You gotta remember it's a risky thing you're doing there because they could go, okay, anybody? Really,
great.
somebody.
So basically, you put this in your will so that it holds you accountable to make sure that you're impacting people's life every single day so
Right,
that
right.
nobody's sitting
And
there going, I have nothing.
but people, now here's the thing. Here's the disclaimer how I'm gonna really pull it off. Right before that happens, where they say that, and I will have all of a sudden the jumbo screen will light up. I know, I think they, or probably the little transistor television, the little screen. Somebody will have it on their phone. Where I'll go like, if you all are watching this, then it means right now I'm having lunch with Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, and Prince. I'm just telling you, first order of business. But seriously, if you're watching this, I want you to know this. I want you to know, and I want to leave people with what they should know about the honor that I felt having them sit in the front row seats of my life.
What a
How it
beautiful way to look at your life like that. I mean,
that's
while
how
we're
I want
alive.
to do it.
I love it. I think I'm changing my will now.
That's how I want to do it. I want it to leave people feeling more of what I have attempted to get people to feel while I was here.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. I love that. It's so profound. I'm just sitting here thinking about it, soaking it in. And I really love that because I think again, we get stuck in this conformity. You know, you have a funeral, you go on a casket, which I also agree with you. I'm not doing that. And then, you know, there's a
No.
lot of sadness, this, that, and the other thing. So for me, I want it to be a celebration of my life. I don't want all kinds of sadness. Nobody ever left here alive. So we were all
That's
going to
right.
go at some point, you know? I
That's
already
right.
almost went. And then if I made it all these extra years, I'm just grateful. So, you know,
That's
it
right.
doesn't have to be sad. I mean, I'm sure there's be some sadness, but that's not how I want it to go. I want people telling joyful stories and things like that. And yeah, here we are talking about dreary death, but hey,
Well, because you know why that's important? It's not one of the two things. I don't think there should be anything that we shouldn't talk about. Like I said, don't talk about uh, um,
agreed.
religion and politics. And like, ooh, don't talk about death. Look, death is what death, the knowing, because that's the only competition.
Yeah,
We're not in competition with each other. We're only in competition with time because it's
exactly.
gonna it's gonna stop. It's gonna end for all of us one day. So
Hmm.
what do you want this? Have you remember that? Remember the first time you heard the thing about which one of these dates is the most important? The day you were born or the day you passed? Neither. What's important is the dash. What the dash in between those dates represents.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
I
the
love that.
journey. Yeah.
For
It's not
sure.
when you came and when you left, but like Sanjeev Chopra says, the most two important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you found out why.
Ooh, yeah, that's perfect.
Right?
The day you found out
And
why.
that's the thing about the 50s. That's when I found out why.
Yeah, I same with me. And I still feel like I'm finding out. I mean, every day I have some revelation about more.
Exactly.
The whys and the
Exactly.
understanding of why my life has been what it is because, you know, these downloads come and you say, "Oh, okay, this is why this happened," you know?
Oh,
So,
yes. And can I share another thing with you and your
sure.
audience about that whole thing, which is very encouraging? Is this you get to a point too, once you cross the meridian, that 50 line,
Mhm.
and you start remembering yourself back to all of the versions of you. See, I was talking about Larry Dixon, the little
Mhm.
kid who left that house and went into foster care that day. All
Right.
that he took the stripes of that first sexual abuse, that first night in there. He did that. So he manifested the world that I live in today. He started the manifestation of the world I live in today because he was the one who started the story that they opened up the world to me for. You had
Mhm.
22 homes. That is a Goldcast video from the very first time I shared that story ever out
Mhm.
loud. Was the gold? It turned into the Goldcast video. Now it wasn't the Goldcast video when I performed it that night. It was for a high school full of people at a thing called Listen to Your Mother in St. Joseph, Michigan. But when someone there said, when we send you the video 2 months from now, you should store it someplace safe, like put it on your YouTube channel, which I did not have one. And so I started the YouTube channel just to store that video there that summer. And by October, Goldcast had found it. They have curators, they call them, that look for impressive content all over the internet. And they found that one single solitary story from that very first night where I bore my soul. And I was ashamed up until that night about having had 22 mothers. And that
Mm.
story, Lost or Found, today has millions and millions of views. And it
Wow.
opened up the door to the world that I am blessed to ease suffering to others, with others, through today.
Right. Well,
So, sure,
our stories are so powerful, and the more
sure.
we stay silent about it, we aren't able to help other people. And that's what I love about Gloves Off. I mean, I people will ask me often, right, when I'm, you know, we're back, you know, before the show starts, and like, is it okay if I curse? Can I say this?
Oh,
Can I say that? And I say, my goodness,
hell
the
no,
show
you
is
can't cuss.
Yeah, I was
Shit,
like,
what's
hell
wrong with
yeah,
your
you
ass?
can do
That's
whatever you want.
that's what I tell them.
That's
Hell,
why the show is gloves off. We can do whatever we want, and that's what's great about it.
right,
So,
right.
and it's so important because every one of us has a unique story and a unique viewpoint and how it's changed the trajectory of our lives. And the more we share that with other people, it gives them hope. It gives them inspiration to hopefully do the same. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who are stuck in situations that they don't like. And the reality is they can change them, but often they're afraid to, they're stuck in their comfort zone. So hearing stories like this will often be inspiring and just giving them that little push to
That's right.
change their lives.
That's right. That's right. That's why we live it. We live it so
Absolutely.
someone else can live a little less of it or a little
Yeah.
none of it. You see what I'm
That's
saying?
right. Yes.
Right. And so, yeah, and I love you do it well all the time. So many of your viewers I know. And sometimes we think we're not making any kind of contribution. Every day you get up. Every day you take, you're already nice and you found one little thing. You stop that person's runaway shopping cart from running out and hitting that car just in the
Mhm.
nick of
Mhm.
time. You woke up today, you were nice, but because of that moment, you're going to sleep tonight nicer.
So true.
You were already great, but because of that moment, you were greater. You were bold, but you proved when you ran out there and left your own stuff sitting there that you could be bolder. Find one
Mhm.
E and one R every day. Push it right up against everything you already are. Because the beauty in that, there's magic in that E and that R. Because when you go to sleep and you look and you close your eyes smiling, because you said, I did that. I found one E and one R today. Good enough. Good enough. Now that R and that E and that R flip and they're there to greet you when you rise before your feet hit the floor the next morning. You already know instantly when you awaken, I feel refreshed. I am revived. Man, I feel renewed because you are
Mhm.
instantly remembered that you are now in front of another opportunity to find one more E and one more R. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Watch, rinse, repeat. Watch, rinse, repeat. That's why
Mhm.
we practice the things that matter to us. You
Yes.
practiced medicine, right? You didn't just
Mhm.
learn it and then sit it somewhere and let it get dusty.
Nope.
You had to practice anything where you have to renew your license, continual education credits or whatever that's,
Yep.
yoga, going to the health club, eating healthy,
Mhm.
your worship. Things we practice is because we don't want to lose them. We want to use them.
That's right.
Right.
And the more we practice, the better we get at them, the easier it becomes, the easier it is for us to be out of our comfort zone. I always say when people say they're uncomfortable making changes, like you watch how if you keep making yourself uncomfortable, how comfortable you get being uncomfortable. I mean,
You
it just,
practice because it must become natural. It is natural.
yeah, it
But
is
we forget
natural.
that it's natural. We get separated
Right.
from what is natural, easy. You don't have to. What if good thing? Let me tell you this: it's two things. It's a good thing. We don't forget how to breathe, except well, and you really don't. You don't have to think. Oh, did I breathe? Did I breathe just now? If you see me not breathing, will you hit me and remind me to breathe? That and then wounds. That's why I love scars. They are immediate proof of healing. Can you imagine, Dr. Kapana, if every other scar that we ever got didn't heal? Only one out of two could heal. Can you imagine? We would all be infested pustules
Ugh.
walking around, sepsis. All because think of all the nicks and cuts and stuff over the years. If
Mm-hmm.
every other scars are a blessing.
Yeah.
They're proof that everything heals.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
then you can ask somebody about that scar. How you get that scar on your shoulder? They can tell you everything about it
Yes. Well,
because
it's always
scars.
those emotional scars that they take a little longer to heal. But what the beauty of that is that when you're able to speak about that wound and you can speak from the scar, it's
That's
so
how you get to the
transformative.
ones you can't see by
Exactly.
acknowledging the ones. Don't wear. If you got like women who have had cesareans and feel like they can't be on the beach, yes, you can. You're
That's
just
right.
like that Vietnam hero down the beach that's down there right now going, like, look at this one. Yeah, and then
Yep.
I got this one over in Kang Pao. Right. You're a war hero too,
That's right.
because you're fighting the war every day, keeping your children
That's
safe
right.
and this and the other. You're bearing that mark. that scar is something for you to be proud of.
Yes, absolutely.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
A woman who has had breast cancer and had to have you are a survivor. You are a winner.
Right.
You should be proud of that scar. Don't hide it.
Well, again, society places a lot of importance on perfection and
Shaming,
this
shaming, and
shaming
all
and
the other
yeah,
crap.
and all
Right.
that crap. So,
No,
unfortunately, we get conditioned to believe that's the way that it should be. But all of a sudden, if we just flip that and decide that these are the things that make us human, these are the
that's
things
right.
that make us evolved humans and what
That's
we've
right.
learned from, it really changes everything. I mean, I have scars and this and that, and I don't, they don't bother me. I mean, I have one on my neck. It's not
Because
so
you're
visible.
living beyond them.
I'm living
Live
beyond
when
those scars.
when
I have
we live
things
beyond our
everywhere.
scars, right? And the only way a person can live beyond their scars is first they honor them. When you
Right.
honor them, you can live beyond them, which means now you can point back to where it all happened. And that's the
Mhm.
story that rides sidecar to a scar. Yeah, it felt
Mhm.
like that then. But let me tell you, because what the scar points to is that you have a right to hold up the antidote which you have bottled because you lived through the poison.
I love that.
Ring the bell. I
Living,
know
yeah,
what's not to love about
yeah.
it.
Yep. You had to have the poison to get the antidote. How would
You
you
have
know
to.
how to alchemize that, those difficult moments and turn
That's
them
right.
into something great?
That's right.
I mean, I would say that every great story that I've ever heard, it's even the one, and so many on this show, they never have started with something that was sort of eh. There was always a turning point and a very big turning point that person alchemized and turned it into something different. And
That's
every
right.
single guest, it's that way. And those are really the stories that are worth sharing. I mean, I frankly don't even know if I have any friends or anything or anybody that hasn't been through something big at this point in my life. Because if they haven't, I don't know that it's that easy to relate to them because they haven't had some insightful moment. So,
This is
I mean,
true.
not that
This is
it's
true.
just, I think there's a different, not that you can't be friends with those people, but there's a different level of depth, I think, that comes along with having gone through certain things and certain difficulties in life. I would say that's definitely the case.
And oftentimes, Dr. Kapana, a lot of people, like, if they don't get your journey, then maybe I always find this too, then help them find the meaning in their own. Because
Hmm.
a lot of people, when you're close to the epicenter, you don't think it's a big deal compared to what that person went through. But that's why we're promised to never be given more than we can handle.
That's
See,
true.
if
That
I,
is
because
so
I hear a
true.
lot of people's stories that sound, I'm going, I don't know what they're talking about mine. There is no way I could have lived through what you just described. No way. Couldn't have done it.
It's true.
I would have killed myself. And I was in something where I did try several times over the years, 5 or 6. But again, it wasn't my journey. But I'm saying if I'd have had what you got handed, no doubt, gone. And they go, but because we need to tell each other that and remind each other, you're stronger than you know.
Everybody is stronger than they know.
Don't
even
go
even
thinking
at
like,
our weakest moments, we rise above it, again and again. It's so much resilience that each one of us has. I mean, we've
every
all
single
gone through some shit, and we've all go through our down moments and our up moments, and the down moments are tough, but we get right back
mm,
up and we do it again.
get
And
back
it's
up.
so important for each one of us to realize that, because I think that's where the true power of our soul and our being lies, in that
Mm,
resilience.
yes. Absolutely
Yeah.
right. And my last thing I'm gonna say, because I know what time your show is. I
Yes.
know what time it
And I
is.
do. Well, before you say your last thing, but then I do
Yeah.
want you to tell the audience about your show, Bathrobe Moments, and I do want to
Oh,
talk about the power of we. So
okay.
end with those topics
I'll
if you
do it
don't mind.
really quickly. Of course, my show Bathrobe Moments is in its 8th full year. I've been on the air 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year, because I love illuminated conversations. I learn so much from just listening and asking crazy questions to people about their wonderful, wonderful epic journeys from the White House to the outhouse. Seriously, it doesn't matter where it took place. What matters is it took place, and now you're an authority. So get your story someplace where it can help other people. We're not all designed to be on big stages, but remember, the grocery store line is a stage. When you just walk past and you touch that family member's arm that's going through something, they can't even talk about it yet. But when you do that right there, you're creating possibly a divine memory. And that is a message, and that is the work right there. And then the Power of We Symposium, my work with kids, is just what I do with a bunch of other people. I don't do it. We do it. That's why it's called the Power of We and not the Power of Me. We come together and we bring everything that we've ever lived, everything that we are today, and we bring everything that we could ever hope to become all to one place in one day. And we pour it into the young people that are there too, so that when they walk in, they see us dressed up. They think we're a bunch of stars, but they're stargazing. But when they leave and they realize they're the stars, now they're ready to do some trailblazing. That sounds cliche, but it's a fact. And it is what makes the Power of We so special. So I'm very proud of that. And I'm just so grateful. And I just want to say the last thing I want to leave you guys with is this, is just every day, just to get up and remember yourself to your original self. Because when if we could stretch like this, like you're on the front of the Titanic, right? The way Rose was like out there like that. And in this hand is your original self. And in this hand is your highest self that you're reaching for. But they're so spread out. But one day when you come together and you have both of those things in your hands at the same time, I believe original self and highest self are going to move together just like Mercury does into one, because they are the same. You always were what you're always trying to be. Just do your best, be your best, and leave everything else. Just leave it. Just do your best and be your best, and you'll be happy you did. I promise you that. So keep going, keep growing, and keep showing others.
I love it. Thank you, Dr. Loren. Such a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you
Thank you
for
for having
helping
me.
me get my show off the ground. Everybody watch Bathrobe Moments if you get a chance, and you'll love it. I was on that show a couple of times as well, and I love it.
Yes. Thank
Have a
you.
fabulous Sunday evening. Get
Thank
some rest.
you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. You guys, and if you got a story, bring it to Trajectory. We
Yes.
want you to. So thank you again. Great job, Dr. Capano. So proud to know you.
Oh, so proud to know you. Great
Thank you.
night, and have a great night, and get some good rest.
I will. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that show. It's always a pleasure I love interacting with Dr. Loren. He just has all these words of inspiration to constantly inspire me. So keep an eye out for a show, Bathrobe Moments. And then also next week is Memorial Day. I meant Labor Day weekend. So feel free to join us next Sunday evening. I'm actually going to be doing a rebroadcast because a couple of months ago, I had Wolfgang von Geram on the show from Germany. And there's some follow-ups that we're going to do. I'm going to have him on the show again on the 15th. So I thought this was the perfect time to rebroadcast that episode. During that episode, we talked about a journey with his mother. He had expressed that he was upset with his mother about some things. So I don't want to give too much away, but it's been a while. So please watch it. And I hope you guys have a great evening and stay tuned for next week for another episode of Gloves Off.